We are late. Okay, so we are just five, all right.
Carl and Sean out tonight. I think Sean was out.
Sean was out and then Chris, you should call some back.
Carl sent us an email and said he wasn't gonna be able to join us tonight.
Sounds good. Phone off.
And Erin is not gonna be able to join us tonight either. She made it all the way up here and then was feeling pretty sick, so she decided to turn around and go home. I told her that was probably the best course of action, so.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Today was the 15th.
She said she'd be available by phone if we had some questions that we felt like we couldn't answer, so.
If you want to scoot down and get a little tighter pan on the camera.
It's good, see, when the camera's panned just right, they can't see me at all. It's perfect.
The voice of reason off screen. Yeah, yeah.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Is there a difference in these? I'm just gonna go off the list.
Yes,
It's 20.
the one, the at a glance is abbreviated, so it shows up on one sheet.
Oh.
The other is the full agenda,
Gotcha, okay.
and then below that you should have the action sheet as well.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Karspeck.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Here.
Trustee Hardy.
Here.
Trustee Albrecht.
Here.
Trustee Butler.
Here.
Trustee Murphy and Trustee Ayers are absent.
Thank you, Clerk. Next on our agenda is citizen participation. This is a chance for anyone in the audience tonight to address the board on something that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have anyone signed up by chance, Clerk? Ms. Wilson?
Mayor Karspeck, the sheet.
Oh, we do, and you did write it. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Please come to the front.
I'm Linda Wilson, 1461 Marlette Street here in Berthoud. And I've been attending the trustee meetings on a regular basis for a little over a year now. And I've come to realize the amount of time and dedication each of you give to the town. And I thank you for your commitment and service to the citizens of Berthoud. Tonight I have two concerns. Both of them are sort of related to greeting to people as they enter Berthoud. The first one is the proposed artwork for the new storage building at the corner of 287 and Berthoud Parkway. You discussed it a couple meetings ago. And I just want to ask that when you're thinking about that artwork, that you keep in mind that it's not distracting to the drivers. That intersection has had so many accidents there and that roundabout and things. So just something to keep in mind. I'm all in favor of artwork. Our granddaughter is going to major in art therapy, so it's all about that. The second area that greets people coming into Berthoud from the north is at Heron Point. And the property on the east side of Heron Point where the apartments are, the opposite of the roundabout, there's an empty lot there. And 5 years ago, the developer said they were going to put in some commercial buildings there. They've not done it. And so it's just a field full of weeds. And I've talked to Teresa Morgan, our code enforcement person. She said she's already notified them. It's almost August and those weeds should have been taken care of. So here again, we have beautiful artwork coming in and the eyesore. And I was just wondering if there's something that the town can do to enforce the codes a little stricter so we don't have these eyesores in other areas.
Thank you very much. Administrator Kirk, do you mind following up? I guess we already did with Teresa, but see if we can get on that
Yeah, we'll
development.
just check in with Teresa and see what the status is.
And thank you for the points on the artwork as well. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak under public comment? Anyone online by chance?
There is not, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Next on our agenda is consent. These are routine items. Do trustees want anything removed from consent?
I would like to remove item G from the consent agenda.
All right, and any other items removed?
No question on item F.
Item G and item F will be removed. Anything else? All right, is there a motion to approve consent agenda minus items F and G?
I move to approve the consent agenda minus items F and G.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace has moved on the consent agenda. Trustee Albrecht has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Trustee Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. All right, items removed from consent agenda will be considered next. We'll start off with item G. Trustee Albrecht,
Want to do F first or G?
doesn't matter to me. We can do F. Trustee Hardy, F?
Yeah, I'll be real quick. A couple questions I had with the sidewalk concierge program is, I mentioned maybe creating a webpage regarding care and upkeep and offering solutions on how to fix it, showing the 1/4 inch gap and things like that. And then ultimately promoting a few opportunities of people that could do the work to help encourage the restoration of that. And then you said something about not promoting businesses because it's under a bid system, but it sounds to me like the homeowner's gonna be the one doing the bidding and the purchasing. So it's not really the town doing the bidding. The homeowner, are they really gonna be required to get 3 bids, or can they just like pick one contractor that they like and go with that, and then they just get 3,000 regardless? Cause I would rather choose a contractor that I know that I trust and work with, not just necessarily the lowest bidder. And I'd like to be able to have this information up on the town's website that could show potential, results and contractors that could be utilized.
Yeah, so I don't think we have a list of contractors, and I think from in general, we try very hard to avoid putting any private businesses up on the town website. Even just to let people know that they're there. We do have a business directory on the economic development website, but it's just like, here's the businesses, here's what they do. It's not necessarily promoting them for a specific activity. We want homeowners to find people they trust or find people from searching or talking to others on a one-on-one basis. Like our street crews would offer some suggestions if somebody said, hey, I don't even know where to start, who could I call? They might offer some suggestions just verbally. Here's people that we use, we're not recommending them, rather than put it up on the website. Part of what that does is also avoid the situation where we have every single concrete and flagstone and masonry person on the planet asking us to put their name on the website and us having to manage that process. Are you a licensed contractor in town and all that? It just becomes probably more hassle than it's worth. I think most people are pretty adept at tracking down either stonemasons or concrete repair on, Google or talking to a neighbor. But I do think that the idea of having some information about the flagstone, what the expectations and standards are on the website is easy for us to do. That's something we've already talked about internally.
Okay.
We do expect people to get bids. We won't necessarily force you to take the low bid. If all 3 bids were over $3,000, or the town's contribution was gonna be $3,000 regardless of what the bids were, and you wanted to choose the more expensive one and make up the difference, that would be okay. But if the town's gonna contribute, then our expectation is that we're gonna use the least cost, so long as we believe that that contractor and their bid is appropriate and they're qualified.
And then I was trying to read the wording right. It sounds like that's $3,000 per frontage, which sounds like if you're a corner lot, you would get $3,000 per side.
We thought that's what we had discussed at the last meeting. That was
I just
kind of
wanted to make sure because I was reading that. It just said frontage, and I didn't want. It just kind of it's like, are we still just talking about the front and not
Yeah.
the side?
Yep.
So
when we talk about street frontage, it's just any property that abuts the street,
okay, all right.
whether it's the side street or the forward-facing
I
street.
just wanted to clarify that too. So.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, we can clear this one by one. Trustee Hardy, do you wanna move to approve as part of consent the sidewalk cost share update?
Yep, so be it.
So moved, okay, Trustee Hardy has moved on this, is there a second?
Second?
Trustee Albrecht is seconded, clerk, give a roll call vote.
Trustee Butler,
Yes.
trustee Hardy,
Yes.
trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes, okay, sidewalk cost share update has been approved. We'll move on to item G there, the mosquito spray plan for July 28th through 29th. Trustee Albrecht?
Yeah, I knew this was gonna be a challenging thing to reopen this can of worms. Just based on the feedback we're receiving about the concerns for spraying and about concerns for the chemicals that are being used and the detriment to the wildlife in Berthoud, I would suggest that we take an alternative approach than street spraying, even though our index is up. And I know county is recommending that we do. I'm gonna pull up trustee Murphy's email, cause I thought he had a good compromise. Because we're in a difficult position where either solution, there's detriments to either option, but I appreciated his solution of zone applications, proximal to positive traps. Or if we have more zone-based spraying in areas that are not near residence properties, private property, maybe focusing more on town properties. I just would like to discuss that and see what everyone's thoughts are on maybe finding some type of compromise for this situation, because we are, because of the moisture and the amount of mosquitoes, we are seeing a lot more, and there is increase for West Nile, but we are also the garden spot and a pollinator city, and that's, somehow we have to make both of those work, so.
Administrator Kirk, have we talked to VDCI about that, I forgot what Fort Collins calls it, like the zones, or?
Not in any kind of sufficient detail to make a recommendation to you tonight about what that should be. We talked about the last meeting, I think the question was asked, how far do mosquitoes typically travel? And the answer was from, 1 to 3 miles. So, if you get a positive test in the trap in Town Park, that doesn't mean that there's not mosquitoes that might be infected with West Nile a mile or 2 miles away. When you draw a 2 mile box around Town Park, it pretty much covers the whole town anyway. And so, if you go to 3 miles, it covers the entire town completely.
Nothing by this Friday that we could probably figure out for VDCI.
I wouldn't guess that's the case. Our expectation, based on the decision the board made last week, was that we'd be spraying the whole town. That the vector index, as we calculated, applies to the whole town, not just to like individual zones, right? So that might be something we wanna look at changing in the future, is how do we calculate? Fort Collins is large enough that they test and generate vector index per zone. And then they just spray that zone, but their zones are almost as big as the town.
Mhm.
And so, we have 5 traps in a much smaller
Right.
area.
I'm not trying to put
Yeah,
it
our
on you, I'm just
our
trying to
vector
get-
index is calculated for the entire town,
Okay.
not just for one trap.
So I wonder, Trustee Albrecht, if, this is controversial, it sounds like for Friday it'd be all or nothing. If
I'm
there,
in favor of not spraying.
of some type of
If- yeah.
suspension,
If we're not certain, I would rather not.
I'd be game for just not trapping, testing, and spraying. Keep it real simple.
Administrator Kirk, obviously we can call them off in this amount of time, right? Hopefully.
Yeah, the board made the decision to spray last week, as you know. We scheduled VDCI the soonest we could, which is Friday. They did call us yesterday and say, oh, it turns out we could spray tonight after all, which by then was too late because we couldn't get notice out. So Friday is the earliest we could do.
So if we did a suspension, I think it would be, we'd have to have an end date on it, or somehow come back to this with another policy discussion of, do we just keep doing this year after year, or do we do Sean's approach, but an overall, I think, some type of discussion on how we continue this, cause it comes up each summertime, and I think we all agree in some form that the policy as it stands right now doesn't really make any sense. So I guess that's the question, do we wanna suspend that for Friday?
Suspend spraying and testing and
Well, testing, yeah, we could,
It's still good to test and have data and never, I mean, data is always good to have. That way we're not ignorant, but
any other
I
thoughts
also
on
am,
this?
if the board has a different opinion.
I'm for, I would actually like to have a more aggressive policy like Trustee Murphy was kinda saying. I do very much understand the controversy around this. I don't doubt what people feel, you know, I do see the problem with government going in people's backyards and people feeling like that's their castle. And undoubtedly, I don't wanna get back into it, but I'm sure it has an effect on other
One-
insects and other beings, so.
One recommendation I have that would not make people fans of us, but if we do spray, I think there should be like a LEDA notification of some kind or some type of notice, so people have adequate time.
For clarity for our plan for this week, the spray is scheduled for Friday night to start after 10 p.m. They'll spray until they're done with the whole town. That's why I put on the on kind of the spray plan update 28th and 29th, because it will necessarily go into the early morning hours of the 29th. Overnight, right? But we're not gonna actually spray twice. It'll just be one spray. It'll take place, you know, over past midnight into the 29th. We won't be going in alleys. We've already instructed BDCI not to do that. That was something that really upset folks last year. I don't think it's necessary to go through the alleys. So they'll stay on all the paved streets. They won't go off-road. I think that's a company policy for them. They don't go bouncing down like, you know, farm roads.
But they do go into parks.
They will go into the parks, through the parking lots, around the parks. There's something that you brought up I wanted to mention. And then from a notification standpoint, we'll be putting information out on our website. We can have a box that pops up anytime somebody goes to it on the homepage, so only, you know, the first thing they see. We'll do a LEDA notification, we'll do press releases, we'll do Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of our social media sites. So our intent is to get the word out as much as possible so that people can cover their gardens and make sure that they're inside and all the things, you know, if they have concerns, wanna do their best to protect what they can. VDCI normally wants to spray starting at 9. We ask them to wait until 10 with the hope that most of the pollinator species have stopped cruising around for the night by 10 o'clock. Try and limit that impact. So that's the plan for Friday, based on the decision the board made last week.
So I guess the way to, if you wanna pursue it, it would just be move to suspend the policy.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend spraying.
I'll second that.
Alright, yeah, any questions? Go ahead.
I was gonna add comment before we made a motion. This is my personal thoughts that as we've already, you know, discussed this, it's very sensitive on both sides, which I completely empathize. But from a governance position, I believe we've hashed this last year, created a policy, rehashed it, you know, last meeting, upheld a policy, that we have a decision in motion. And as much as I'm empathetic with, you know, these public sentiment comment, I just think it's prudent that we stay the course. And then if it's appropriate, which I agree that the current policy is flawed, it certainly can be improved. But I think that would just warrant that discussion at the appropriate time to, I think, make adjustments.
Part of the current policy
That's
was to have the two tests in a row come back negative, and then have the board come together and discuss it. Partly because there may be situations or factors that are affecting the high numbers. In this case, we have the highest number of rain that we've seen in years. So that's a factor that's taken into consideration. Let's be honest, had this been any other summer, we probably wouldn't see 2.75 test results in a row, because we haven't for the longest time. That's why it was put in the policy to have 2 tests results of 0.75 or higher, because the odds of that happening were pretty slim. No one predicted that we'd have the rainiest spring that we've had in 100 years come through and create this monsoon season of, mosquito Yeddon and causing the numbers to spike. So with taking into consideration the numbers spiking like they are, I haven't seen any evident proof that the West Nile viral cases have spiked as well. It's also, to me, I mean, if it's such a pandemic type issue and health issue, why is it taking 10 days for VDCI to get a spray truck out? I mean, if it was really a serious case as it is, they would have been able to get out on an emergencies type case basis. So to me, I don't view the West Nile virus as a pandemic type issue. We have much higher death rates in other cases that we aren't addressing. Why are we addressing this one?
All valid points, I don't disagree with any of those. I guess my position is more from just a governance of the process of how we got here today. I don't disagree with any of you.
Yeah, I mean, the process that we're here today is that we created a policy that we would bring this together and have this discussion so that we could talk about, hey, we tested positive twice, not 3 times. Why is this happening?
Right.
And then what do we wanna do about it? Do we wanna ride the storm out and have Mother Nature go through her course and have it fix itself eventually when we have the rains dissipate? Or do we try and go shotgun something that doesn't eradicate the mosquito, it doesn't eradicate the virus? To me, spraying doesn't do the virus any justice compared to the amount of detriment it does to our environment. I think we're doing more environmental damage than we are healthcare.
And that's all probably valid.
Yeah, I see your point, trustee Weatherty. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, I would be in favor of that. I guess the corollary to that is we would need to have this essentially tabled and actually come together with policy, Ricky Tick. Just because as much fun as it is talking about mosquitoes, I would rather we just have policy and walk away, because it seems like the last 3 times this has come up, it never got left right. It just got left kind of where we put it, and we haven't actually put it away yet. So
Seems like generally we wait till September and then put on Chris the next year to figure something out.
Well, is it impossible to talk about a new policy tonight that we do zone-based spraying in general, that we do not no longer do private property spraying?
We'd have basically 2 zones.
Well,
Well,
I leave it up to Administrator Kirk on that
Yeah, I mean, I think-
possibility of that.
I think there's some impracticality to do that tonight. I don't think we are prepared to kind of give you any, I mean, from a practical standpoint, staff doesn't have a lot of input anyway. I mean, I shared this last week. I mean it sincerely. I'm not a biologist or an entomologist. I'm not gonna pretend to know what this does to the environment or to people. I know what the health department's recommendations are. So, I think for us to make any kind of recommendation to you about what an appropriate policy is, I don't know that we'll have anything to offer you other than what we've already discussed. Not tonight,
Right.
yeah.
I think in the future it'd be good to have Sean's and we can have that, finally have that discussion of, is this appropriate or not? Cause we're at 3 high counts and we're still kind of questioning it. I think the real conversation is we wanna do this or not.
So would we like to suspend the policy until further notice?
So we have a motion right now. Is there any other
We don't
comments?
wanna suspend the policy, just the spraying
To suspend the
until
spraying?
we
That's
set
the way
a
I took
better
it.
policy, yeah.
Is there anything final comments before we vote on that? Do you have any questions?
just that we get the policy addressed as soon as feasible to that. If we're pausing on this policy, we need to have something in place as soon as feasible.
And to clarify, your motion is to suspend this
Spray.
spray,
Until a
Until
more
discussion.
refined policy is implemented.
Which would mean,
so no spraying in the interim.
Which I do think means suspending the policy, because the policy is, the policy really is just when there's 2 consecutive weeks of 0.75 vector index or higher, we have a meeting with the town board and you guys tell us whether or not to spray.
I think we all wanna continue to the larvicide, though, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think for all intents and purposes that, I guess we would continue to do that, so that's fair.
Okay. So yeah, it would just be suspending the spraying policy until
Well, just the spraying. We'll still larvicide, we'll still
right,
test.
spraying policy, the spraying
trap.
portion. Okay, clerk, can we have a roll call vote on that?
Mayor Pro Tem Grace,
Yes.
Trustee Butler,
No.
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
No, okay. The mosquito is on a suspension for the spraying on that until further notice. All right, next, so how do we handle G then?
We just did.
Well,
Do
I
we-
think you just did.
So we
It
just,
means we're not
we're
spraying.
not taking action on that, okay. Next up is the Ludlow annexation, substantial compliance, and we have Ton Hillebrand, our new town planner. Here you sit, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Karsbeck and trustees. For the record, Tom Hillenbrand, Senior Planner.
Senior planner, thank you.
So this is the Ludlow Sliver Annexation Substantial Compliance, which is item 5.2 on tonight's agenda.
Can I just add real quick, I talked to our county commissioner and she said, stop stealing our best. We took you, so.
Noted, good to know, good to know. That's funny. So the subject property is an approximate 0.4 acres of land and is located between State Highway 287 and South Berthoud Parkway, which is approximately 1 mile south of the intersection of South Berthoud Parkway and Mountain Avenue. It is south of and adjacent to the Ludlow Farms property and northwest of Harvest Ridge subdivision. The subject property was inadvertently left out of the original annexation of the Ludlow Farms property, which was annexed to the town in 2010. This annexation request would correct that inadvertent omission. This agenda item is to establish that the annexation petition was filed correctly and to establish if there is an interest by the town to consider annexation of the property. This agenda item does not consider the merits of the application, but only establishes a public hearing date where the merits and application details can be discussed along with the annexation agreement. The proposed Town Board of Trustees hearing date is September 12th, 2023. So this slide before you illustrates findings of compliance with the adequacy of the annexation petition filing. And then before I conclude and address any questions that you all may have, I just have one minor housekeeping note, and that is that the legal description contained in the resolution as seen in the agenda packet that you received was incorrect, but that was brought to our attention and we did correct it just this evening. And so the final document that Mayor Karsbeck will be signing has been updated and is the correct legal description. But otherwise, that concludes my presentation and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
Exactly one.
Mayor Pro Tem?
That lower picture there, is there, I guess, are there any buildings on this 0.04 acre?
There are not, it is completely vacant.
Absolutely nothing underground, nothing at all.
Not that as far as I know, there's nothing at all.
End of my questions.
Okay, anything else?
Nope, just glad we caught it, cause I hate it when this stuff comes back and bites us
Yep.
much later.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Okay, there's two recommended actions there. Anyone would like to propose a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 2023-16, a resolution regarding petition for annexation filed by Ludlow Farms LLC and setting the matter for a public hearing.
Second.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem has moved on this. Trustee Hardy has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
trustee Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Item number 3 on our agenda is the I-25 Interchange Improvements Project, and this will be introduced, presented by Administrator Kirk.
Thank you, Mayor Karsbeck and trustees. As you know, we designed some intersection improvements out at the I-25 and 56 interchange. Excuse me, as you know, CDOT reconfigured the interchange over the last few years and left us with unlandscaped, unimproved roundabouts. It's up to the town to improve those. After an RFP process and a uncomfortable board vote, the board selected an artist to do some sculpture work. And the artist is continuing to work on those sculptures, which you'll see on your screen in the small picture. My apologies apologize, these aren't the best photos, these are straight out of the plan set, but are illustrative of what it is we will be constructing. The photos on the screen are the the west roundabout on the kind of the Love side of the interchange. That tree is kind of reminiscent of the fact that we were Tree City USA. It's made out of stainless steel, surrounded by a stone base, and some attractive low maintenance, low water use landscaping, grasses and bushes and perennial flowers. The east roundabout is similar, though unique in that it is intended to kind of be wheatgrass in a vase to kind of represent the plains on the east side of the freeway. Again, both representing Berthoud with little welcome to Berthoud in the sandstone that's placed about the site. In addition to the center of the roundabouts and the artwork, the project does include landscaping of the median islands and the areas adjacent to the intersection. So it's not just the center of the roundabout, but that's the prettiest spot. So that's what included. The rest of the plan set was in your packet for reference. Like all of the projects that we bid over the last 12 months, this one came in above our cost estimate. This one less so. Less significantly, we had done an updated cost estimate prior to bidding and expected it to be higher than what we had budgeted. What we budgeted last year was based on a cost estimate that we did in the fall, and we already were kind of expecting it to be over what we had included in the budget. But it generally came in at bid generally what we expected internally, that cost estimate to be kind of knowing that it would be over budget. What we included for the project over the course of 2 years was $1.25 million. That was $500,000 last year and $750,000 this year. In your packet, I apologize, I put $480,000. I was looking at a different spreadsheet for 2022 when I put that together. Last year, we spent about $109,000. That was partially on the design and partially on the initial payments to the artist to get the work started on the sculptures. And in 2023, we finished up design and made another payment to the artist very recently that I got our monthly and financial report this morning, and so I updated these numbers. They're slightly different than what was in your packet, but this is more current based on the month-end report I got this morning. So what we have roughly remaining that we included in the budget from last year and this year was a little over $1 million. The construction bid was 1.356, 670. We have some utility work left to do. When I was preparing the packet last week, our utility estimates were much higher. We got some word back late last week that some of the electrical infrastructure we thought we were gonna have to build was already installed by CDOT, so that's gonna save us some expense. There was some sleeving underneath the road that we're not gonna have to do after all, and that's gonna save us some expense. So we were able to bring those estimated costs down. We do have some remaining payments to the artist to finish the sculpture work and to do the install. We have construction administration expenses just to manage the project, and then including some contingencies. So actually, because the utility costs decreased that we've been able to identify just in the last couple of days, we think the total cost of the project is gonna be 1.75, not 1.95, which is what I had included in your packet. But the increased budget need actually ends up being about the same because I was able to update the current expense numbers with the monthly end report. And so what we really need to complete the project is roughly $730,000 of additional budgeted funds. We would suggest that we take that from our general fund balance, which pays for parks and streets and a whole long laundry list of things. Our current general fund balance is a little over $25 million. So we have plenty of money there to cover the added expense to finish this improvement. We think that's a reasonable thing to do, given that this is the primary entrance to the community from I-25, and we really want it to be reflective of the beautiful community that we have. So our recommendation tonight would be that you would approve the or award the bid, excuse me, not approve, but award the bid for the I-25 Roundabout Improvements Project to Integrated Site Solutions. They were our only bidder. And that you would authorize staff to include funds in the mid-year to increase the total available budgeted funds to $1.75 $1.45 million, a total increase of approximately $730,000, taking those extra funds from our general fund reserve balance.
Is it 1.745?
Yeah, like I said, last week when I was preparing the packet, we were still trying to work through the utility expense that we were gonna have. And so we were able to bring that number down. We actually still have a few things that we think we can save on, that we're working with the contractor on. And if we can, we'll work those in via change order, bring the cost down a little bit more. And so our hope is that we won't need the contingency, but every time I've ever built a project, it never goes the way you expect, especially when you're working in major highway right of way, so.
Okay,
In any case, that is our recommendation. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
questions?
If we approve this tonight, when would they approximately start and finish?
We haven't finalized that with them yet. We'll need to finish contracts, get their bonds in place. They'll have some initial traffic control work to do. We already have our special use permit from CDOT, so we're kind of cleared through their process to go ahead and start, but they will have to approve the final traffic control plans, one of the things. My estimation is they would start by September 1st, that they would be under construction out there. The artist, we've already paid him to purchase the materials. He's already begun work on the sculptures, and his work should be done just in time to set the sculptures on the foundation that has to be built for them. As you can imagine, they require pretty significant concrete foundation that takes some time to cure and stuff like that. But that'll be one of the last things to go in, so they don't get damaged during construction.
And estimated completion, how long?
Our internal estimate, though we haven't agreed on a schedule with the contractor yet, is 6 months. So that's tough because then we would be planting in winter, and so it's likely that planting would wait until the spring. So they would do all the initial work, leave the landscaped areas unplanted, and then come back. Even though all the hardscape, the rocks, the sculpture work could be installed, and then they'd come in and finish the planting in the spring when the weather warranted.
CDOT doesn't offer any, I thought they gave us some money to, oh, wow, okay.
No, they're actually asking us for additional funds to help pay for it.
That sounds more like them, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but they do have a nice solution there, temporary.
There's a nice
Light tree.
mobile light trailer and some
I
attractive.
thought they, for some reason, they offered money to help out with communities with artwork too, but guess not.
They did not.
Okay. Any other questions?
I suggest we get this going.
All right, there's a.
No?
Yeah, so do you wanna just move it as a recommended action to award the I-25 roundabout improvements project?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Just wanna read that?
Yeah. I move to award the I-25 roundabout improvement project to Integrated Site Solutions in the amount of $1,356,670 and authorize the town administrator to authorize any necessary change orders and direct the town administrator to include this expense in the 2023 mid-year budget update to increase the total amount of available budgeted funds to $1.745 million.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Grace has moved on this. Trustee Albrecht has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Butler,
Yes.
trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
Mayor Karspeck.
Yes, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
for that indication improvement. Finally, under our regular items, we have the business licensing. This will be a public hearing for ordinance 1320. Clerk Samora, please.
Good evening, Mayor Karspeck and trustees. Before you this evening is ordinance 1320 regarding business licensing. If you notice on your at-a-glance agenda, it says 7:10 next to that item, and it's exactly 7:10
Boom.
right now.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
Yep,
you did.
that was good.
It's hard to be humble when you're that good, Christian.
Now he's stalling.
He's not cocky, he's just better than us.
I can just see into the future.
Wow.
So this ordinance was introduced at the June 27th board meeting. As a reminder, this ordinance does repeal the local sales tax license requirement and replaces it with a general business license. For 2023, there would not be any fees for businesses to obtain a business license. That would not take effect until 2024, the fees. And the fees would very likely be similar to what the sales tax licensing is now, which is $20. And this ordinance would amend the code so that we can, of course, have the general business license, which would enable the town and staff to have a better idea and better track businesses within the town so that we can, of course, offer any services to those businesses as well as ensure that those businesses are operating in a safe manner. So this is a public hearing this evening, and I am happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, clerk. Questions, trustees?
So is this an addition or is
Trustee
this,
Hardy, go ahead.
combining sales tax and business license?
So it completely repeals the sales tax license requirement. The reason for that is currently businesses collect and remit sales tax to the state of Colorado. They in turn remit that back to the town. So there's really no reason for the town to have a separate sales tax license when the state is the entity collecting that.
Okay.
If we were
So we're just
self-collecting,
renaming
so it's really renaming it, yes, and creating an annual license as opposed to a license that in practice has been for the life of the business, which really does not create very useful information from an accounting and
Yeah, is it active?
standpoint. Is it active? Is it not? It's very difficult to tell most of the time.
So those of us that have sales tax licenses now need to come back in and renew to a business license?
Yes, that is correct, and we will be proactively reaching out to any businesses that are currently licensed, as well as working with Walt Elish, our business development director, to get the word out to businesses this year. That way we're ready for next year.
Sounds good.
Mayor Pro Tem?
In terms of sales tax license versus the business license, is there a cost difference that the businesses are gonna have to pay?
So the only cost difference would be the fact that it would be an annual license as opposed to a license for the life of the business. And right now, the sales tax license is $20, so we would be looking at a cost at that same level.
Okay.
That way it's
Every year.
not cost prohibitive for the business to license each year.
Got it. How, say I came in and I wanted to set this up, could I buy multiple years in one sitting? Like 5 years of business license from the town, is that permitted?
Under the code, the way the ordinance is written, it would be on an annual basis. So it would expire at the end of each year on December 31st.
Okay, but so I couldn't come in and, slide 100 over and get 5 years, so I don't have to come back in every year? Okay. I'm just
No,
curious what this is gonna
Like
look like.
buying a domain name, by
Yes,
5 years at a
exactly,
reduced rate.
by a little bit of a discount, no.
$10 a year.
Other questions? This is every business. This is a home-based business as well.
Yes, that is correct. Any business operating within the jurisdiction of the town of Berthoud.
What does that do for like special events? Do you need a special event sales tax license or business license? Or the food trucks that come into town, do they need business
Certainly.
licenses as well?
So it does not require any business that's already licensed otherwise to obtain a business license, the general business license. So if it's a food truck and they have a vendor license through the town, they would not need to get the additional general business license. As far as sales tax with special events, a business would need to have a state of Colorado sales tax license, whether that be a regular license that they renew on an annual basis or a special event type sales tax license that's good, say, for 3 months out of the year for those events and festivals to participate in.
Because that's one thing I learned from you in the last year or two was when we have like these craft shows or events where vendors come in, set up a 10x10 tent and they're selling wares, they don't have to get a sales tax license to collect sales tax for Berthoud.
So they do not need to get a Berthoud sales tax license. In practice, though, they have been required to have a state sales tax license so that they can collect and remit that. When the events are being organized, the event organizer will submit a list of vendors with names as well as the sales tax license numbers.
So we'll have to start collecting that information, those groups that do events?
We already collect that information,
How long have you been doing that?
as long as I can remember,
Since I was a young clerk.
Cause I've heard two sides of the story, cause like when I was doing Snowfest, I told everybody they had to check with you to get a sales tax license, and they said it wasn't required. So, and then I've never been asked to submit a list of vendors.
So with the sales tax license, if they're not selling tangible goods, they may not necessarily need to have a sales tax license. But if they are there selling tangible goods, then they do need to at least have a sales tax license through the state, that way they can remit the sales tax they collect.
So
on
craft
sales.
shows, craft fairs,
Yes, exactly.
farmers markets, all that stuff.
Yes, that is correct.
But if they're just advertising,
Then there's no need at all,
need,
that
they
is
do it
correct.
themselves. And then food's exempt, right?
So food is exempt under the state sales tax. For the town of Berthoud sales tax, the 4% in the municipal code is very specific that the exemption on to make the change with regard to the general
Yeah,
business
sorry, I'm
license.
trying to just get the full picture, why does staff
Certainly.
feel that this would be a good adjustment to make?
So it's a little bit of a code cleanup. Right now, the sales tax license is required by an ordinance that was passed, I believe, in 1970. That currently indicates that the sales tax license should be renewed on an annual basis. We discovered that going back and researching where these requirements in the code came from in looking at the possibility of proposing a general business license. In practice, since that ordinance was passed as far back as 1982, I can find the records, it's been for the life of the business, which is very interesting. So regardless, there would need to be a code cleanup in that respect. And so it is an opportunity to convert that to a general business license so that the town can have a much better idea of the businesses operating within the town, which can help in support, safety, as well as ensure that proper sales tax is being remitted by businesses that should be collecting it.
So having more contact with the businesses on a regular basis is gonna help you guys be able to keep track of what's coming in and out of Berthoud, essentially.
Yes, that is correct.
Interesting.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll open it up for the public. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this proposed ordinance 1320? We have no one signed up. Did anyone wish to speak that did not have a chance to sign up? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for deliberation. Everyone's thoughts?
Sounds like housekeeping.
Nice.
Just a question, and maybe this is for some of our business owners on the board. Do you see any reasons that business owners might be adverse to this change?
I think there's probably a general resistance by some to having your name on another list server, you know, being tracked, but in this case, in my mind, it's by government, it's not that, you know, track your email and send you
Spam you?
bogus marketing, yeah. So I'm all
We've
right.
already, my opinion is, I don't see a lot of resistance because you're already reporting to the state.
Yeah.
You
Well-
know, in likely
Should be.
county,
But then there's a lot that aren't.
well,
But
hey, you should be.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
This is just, I think, a code cleanup as well as, I think it just makes logical sense to, it's only $20. Yes, it's gonna add an annual, you know, expense to it, but it's only $20.
It's more or less process that paperwork and get it entered into the computer.
Right.
20 bucks
It's
is
important to
minimal.
keep updated records
Mhm.
of having, you know, knowing who's doing business in our town.
Yeah, that is interesting to know, it's been 1982, you're saying,
1970.
Yes, and
72.
One interesting thing I did not mention, we receive a lot of inquiries here at Town Hall from new businesses looking to find out how to obtain a business license in the town of Berthoud, because in most other jurisdictions it is required. So I think in some sense, businesses are prepared for that, so It'll be a combination. There'll be an education aspect to it as well.
Reaching out to everyone and saying,
Reaching out.
you gotta come in.
proactively, exactly.
How does that work as far as dates? When are they gonna come in? Use Berthoud Marketplace, for example, or something. You're gonna have to reach out to everyone, right? And
Yes, that is correct.
And say-
So the remainder of 2020 is really going to be used as an education period of time so that we can reach out to the businesses proactively, provide the application, what's required, how to apply, how to obtain the license, and then in 2024 the program will be at 100%. And of course, we won't be looking to hold people accountable or anything like that, but to really use it as a tool to work with businesses instead.
okay, so for the most part, you need to start applying by January 1st.
So it depends when the business has opened. If it's a new business, of course, it could be any time during the year.
Right.
But we would hope to.
For an existing
capture
business.
The vast majority of businesses this year when there's no fee to get into the program.
Oh,
Alright, you should sign up right now, Bill.
gotcha, yep.
We're both here.
Save $20.
Just
Would
a
it-
quick
go ahead.
thought, one of the things I think is neat about this is right before I got sworn in, we had the crisis, the economic crisis was hitting and everything was shutting down and we were scrambling to come up with ideas for relief and how we could contact businesses in the community. And it really was a challenge because if you don't have updated lists and contacts, you can't really reach everybody. So if we'd had that implemented at that time, it would have been probably a lot more accurate and relevant information instead of, decades old data. So that's a neat opportunity, I think, for the town.
Yeah, who knows what date and address is on my business license, I got it so long ago.
Right.
Still taped to my window.
1800s?
I assume would there be an online portal to apply for these licenses?
Yes, that would be added to the website. That way the process is as easy and smooth as possible for businesses.
I think it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Clean up, organize, and then that way if there's ever any issues, someone can say, call the town, and say, is this a legitimate business or is it a scam? Kind of legitimize, I think it kind of legitimizes businesses, cause when you get on Facebook and everybody's selling something on there, you kind of wonder, are they a legitimate business? Are they following all the safety guidelines? Are they paying their sales tax? Are they?
Alright, would anyone wanna move on ordinance 1320?
I'll make the motion. I will move to approve ordinance 1320, an ordinance of the town of Berthoud to repeal local sales tax license requirement and require general licensing of businesses.
I'll second.
Alright, trustee Albrecht has moved on ordinance 1420, trustee Hardy has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Albrecht.
Yes.
Trustee Butler.
Yes.
Trustee Hardy.
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Alright, 1320 has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our regular meeting. We'll go on to reports here, and then we'll go into executive session afterwards. So we'll start off with trustee Albrecht.
I don't think I have much to report. I just noticed that our sign, if you're in Longmont coming into town by Grace Place is super faded and just thought, oh, it's time
Yeah.
to get that
Good call.
updated and snazzy, so just, I don't
I
always
think we
notice
have a
these things.
design in the works. So, we budgeted money to update those this year and Stephanie and Jeremy are working on those, but I haven't asked in a while where that's at, so I'll have to touch base with them and see.
2 or 3?
There's the one on 56 and the one on 287.
Do we have one coming in north or is that even
I
needed?
believe so.
It'll be nice to see those.
Yeah, they need to get refreshed, for sure.
They need to be like retired into the museum.
They're big.
They are
Replace a
way
wall.
bigger than you imagine.
Replace a
I bet
wall
they
of a
are,
museum.
cause they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
seem very big from the road.
Highway signs are always like way larger than you
I bet.
imagine,
You're
right?
going-
Cause from the
yeah.
road they look small, but when you
You're
stand
gonna
next to
go
them,
at
they're like,
65 miles an hour, yeah.
it's huge, yeah.
That's
That's
24
it for
feet by
me.
24 feet.
Good point. Alright, trustee Hardy?
Things on my agenda that I've got, Main Street's gonna have a meeting this week, haven't set a time yet, but it's normally for Thursday, looking for volunteers and interest to help with upcoming events for Small Business Saturday, parade, Snowfest, all those things. So if anybody's interested, give me an email at berthoudmainstreet.org. Get you on the invite. Let's see here. What else did I have? I thought I had a couple things that I knew I should have wrote down. I think the sign was one that kept reminding me that was good to bring up. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, if you remember, just go back. Trustee Butler.
I actually had this on my list in just in conjunction with the I-25 roundabout, gateway entrances, and then as just mentioned with the other signage, I think it would be just prudent or wise to kind of spruce up a lot of our gateways, as we had, feedback tonight from Ms. Wilson regarding, I noticed I drove by, like 114 and Bertha Parkway, vacant commercial lot there in front of the apartments. And it looks pretty bad, and that is the gateway entrance, leaving Loveland into Berthoud. So I'd like to see our town make a push to just clean up a lot of our entrances and gateways across really the board, all, around town. I guess the most relevant thing for me to announce is my resignation. This will be my last town board meeting. I will be officially stepping down end of this month, July 31st. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve. This is a little bittersweet for me. I'm moving on in life, and just a new stage, and I'm moving out of town, so it's time for me to step down. But just want to compliment everyone. It's been really a sincere pleasure to serve with you guys and the cooperation and efforts that I want to really big thanks to town staff as to administrator and clerk. I think you guys are doing amazing jobs, and same with planning department. We've had some transition, and I know that was a little tough there for a little bit in the absence of the previous planner, but I'm really happy that I think we're in great hands, and so it helps me feel better moving on at this time myself, especially serving on the planning commission in the past for so many years.
Yeah, just want to thank you right back. All your time on the planning commission, and it's kind of been a whirlwind here. And you stepped right up, and in my opinion, seemed to know exactly what you were doing. So from day one, it was really great to have you on board. So it is bittersweet. I'm excited for you, but also tough to lose you. So thank you very much for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
And all this talk about gateways reminded me of one other point.
Go ahead.
The light interchange at 287 and Main Street seems to be stirring up comments on social media about the timing. Is there anything we can do to check on that?
287.
Yeah.
Oh, 56. Okay.
We already had it on our list to talk to CDOT about the left turn lane, or the left turn heading southbound Bertha Parkway at 287. I can't remember who brought that up at the last meeting.
No, I'm talking about 56 and
Yeah,
287.
no, so we can add that to the list.
Okay.
I think I guess I'll have to find out. I'll touch base with you and see what the scuttlebutt is. I don't know what, I drive through it every day, a couple times a day. Timing doesn't seem that off to me, but
It just seems as we get more growth in our cars, timing needs to adjust a little bit.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Working with youth advisory still, they're still kind of digging through. Summer schedule's really rough, especially with just two of them. But they will be presenting sometime before the end of the year, essentially Scorch Fest, what came of it, everything from there. We still have extra Mr. Pickles and laying around if anybody wants to win a few. That's about it in terms of reports. I did have a couple of questions for staff. I guess one, having just moved up to Hammond, Hammond Farm, there's a metal plate off 10E.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I guess, what's the story behind that? Because it seems to,
Kick out my tires.
yeah.
I just talked to Keith about it yesterday. It's been a little frustrating for us. The contractor we hired to repair it there's some new reason why they haven't done it every week. So we talked yesterday, if they don't get it done this week, if they don't actually start working to repair it, we're just gonna hire somebody else. They were supposed to start, I think, late last week, and then one of their trucks broke down, they couldn't be there. This is not a two-bit operation, and I don't wanna call anybody out. I believe them, cause we've done a lot of work with them, there's something odd going on, but it's been a challenge to get repaired, so. It should be repaired very soon, those repairs should start this week. If they don't, you're looking for a new contractor.
Okay, I'll call you Friday at 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I guess, you know, the other usual questions, I guess, one, any updates on the broadband initiative?
Yeah, it's been an interesting, this is like a tangled web. No pun intended, I guess, but yeah, so we've met with Loveland Pulse in the county a couple times, follow-ups to the meeting that we had. We were exploring a public-private partnership option that got brought to us just in the last few weeks. We wanted to kind of get a little bit more information about that. In the broadest sense, or in the broadest terms, what happens is a capital investment firm that specializes in leveraging tax-free municipal bonds. A third-party entity gets created, kind of like a holding company that the town becomes a part of. Funds are issued to build the network, and then it's an open access network, so any fiber provider can lease fiber within the town's network to provide service directly to customers. And so basically it creates like a totally open marketplace, but where the town, or this third-party entity that the town becomes a part of, builds and manages the fiber in the ground, and then any company can use that fiber under lease to provide service directly to the home. There's benefit in that, and then it's a much lower capital expense up front. The capital that gets invested up front to construct the infrastructure gets paid back over time by the lease revenues from the providers. There's benefit in that the town doesn't become a provider. The town doesn't create its own like Loveland Pulse or Fort Collins Connection or whatever. And it allows the private companies to continue to operate. Those leases are done in this, you know, kind of in a fair and open way so that you're not providing preference. And then any company, local or not local, can come in and lease fiber and provide service in the market with the idea of increasing competition and access. It sounds good when you say it fast, but there's a, as you can imagine, there's a incredible amount of details that have to go into that. So we've been talking to some of the you know, the group of folks we've already been working with. How do you think this would work for you? How do you think this would work? Would you be interested in leasing fiber in a network? And trying to understand a little bit more how that practically gets implemented. There's only really one in Colorado that we're aware of, in Centennial, and I think they're using it a little bit differently. But there are some other public-private partnership, open access networks throughout the rest of the country, and so we felt like it would be irresponsible of us not to explore the option because it does have a lot of pros. But
So you think we could have just the board make a decision, considering it's been a while, that we just,
Yeah.
you have a presentation of that or an RFP?
Yep. Yeah, so we, in parallel with that, we were working on an RFP, and actually the consultant that's been helping us through this process, that was helping us prepare the RFP, is the one that suggested it. This kind of new idea. Sometimes you spend so much time trying to research new ideas that you never get anything done, which I have
Story of my business.
struggles with, right? And at some point you gotta just commit and do something, and if it turns out not to be the right thing, I guess you just move on. You commit and get it done. So yeah.
Okay.
So we were already preparing the RFP in parallel with that, with the kind of the goal internally that we would finish the RFP and kind of have this better understanding of how this process works at roughly the same time. So we just need to finalize that RFP and get it in front of you and get it out. I think that's really the only practical next step, rather than open up Pandora's box of the public-private partnership option.
Well, if you feel it's valid, we can hold on. I think it'd be nice to hear where we're
Yeah,
at, so.
well, I'm sure as much as you guys don't wanna continue to wait for us to figure out how to do this, we don't wanna keep going around in circles about it either, so.
Sure.
Cool.
Then the usual railroad crossing updates.
No update on the railroad crossing.
Any Spartan crossing updates?
Nope, we reached out to BNSF to see if they had any comments on our plans. They've had them for a few months, and they said, we'll let you know.
Cool. Then yeah, I guess the only other one is, I've told you about this before, on 287 as you're heading south onto Berthoud Parkway, so you're turning left. My understanding is you need to have a green arrow essentially on those big posts. So at that intersection, the southwest pillar does not have a green arrow.
That's what I was referencing
Yeah.
when trustee Hardy brought it up.
That one, yes, I don't know if CDOT knows about that or if they have any plans to fix it,
My suspicion is if they know about it and they're not fixing it, it's because they don't think it's necessary, or they don't know about it, one of the two.
Okay. Is that something that
But
we
yeah,
could
we-
pursue?
I sent myself a reminder email. It sounds weird, but that's how I try to keep track of stuff
Sure.
that you guys bring up during meetings. After our last meeting, so I just haven't reached out to CDOT yet.
Sure. That's all I have for now. is
Good question.
and stuff.
Old Town Hall, do we have an update on that?
Yeah, we're gonna meet with Mike Schroedlin again this week on Thursday morning, I think. We made some adjustments to kind of the initial contract that we prepared. I think I mentioned this once before. Based on the last meeting we had a couple weeks ago, he's had that revision now for a couple weeks. He's had an opportunity to look at it with his attorney. We're gonna get together on Thursday. I think we're pretty close to bringing you a complete contract.
Think by August or that
Yeah.
early?
I mean, unless something comes up on Thursday that we haven't foreseen,
Okay.
unless he kind of torpedoes the deal, which I don't think will happen. He seems very committed to the idea and getting it done.
Awesome. August 4th, the deadline for the call for projects for MPO, just wanted to put on staff's radar, roundabout issues or recreation trail issues, these are all
Yep.
coming up for a 2-year plan, so it's a good time to get some money out of that.
I did talk to the NPO director, Suzette,
Great.
Millette, for quite a while about the call for projects just last week.
Awesome. And just made me think Mike's thing about the Spartan, if we're really not getting a train stop, you might have some leverage into that with the front reach passenger rail. So that might be someone to reach out to as well as Andy Karzian. Not that BNSF would care, but maybe they would start advocating for us as well. That's it, besides saying thank you to you, so.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, Jeff. We do have an opening, we need to establish an interview committee for the planning commission. Do you want me to take that on, clerk? Or should I hand that over to you?
You can certainly take the lead.
Okay, all right. Do we know a date on this, clerk?
Tentatively, we would be looking at the evening of August the 7th, which is a Monday, for virtual interviews of applicants for that vacancy.
At like 6:30 or?
6 or 6:30, whatever time works well for the elected officials participating.
Okay.
We can get that coordinated and scheduled.
Any trustees? We need 2, right?
I'd like to volunteer. I've never been a part of
Okay.
that interview committee, so.
Are we cool with trustee Hardy and trustee Albrecht? All right,
Yes.
decision made. Do you guys wanna do 6 or 6:30?
6 is fine.
6 work, clerk?
It's fine. Yep, it's
6
fine.
o'clock, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And then for trustee Butler, I think we'll, we can bring up how to fill that at our next meeting. We have till, clerk, you said till can you go over that, what you told me ahead of the meeting real quick?
Certainly, so in accordance with statute, the governing body has 60 days to fill the vacancy. If the vacancy is not filled within 60 days, of course, that would trigger a special election. Typically, they are filled by appointment. Now, in this particular situation, with trustee Butler's resignation, that vacancy will exist on the 1st of August. Because the resignation, your last day is the 31st of July. So it will become a vacancy on the 1st of August, and the governing body will then have 60 days to fill that vacancy from that point forward.
Okay, so it's something we could
We can
discuss it next
certainly add that to the next agenda.
Great, thanks.
So that the board can discuss what that process looks like.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll hand it over to staff.
Just a couple brief updates for you tonight, and then I've got an email queued up for you tomorrow too, but we've been working on getting the trees replaced in Hammond. I know that's something that we've been going back and forth on for a while. I think we finally agreed to a solution with them where the town's gonna help. We're gonna provide the trees. Their contractor is going to install them. They're gonna do half in the fall and half in the spring.
Sweet,
So
that's really great,
we
thank
are
you.
gonna get all those done. So happy to hear that that's moving forward. Work started on the pickleball courts. You might see a big giant pile of dirt. They're starting to do over excavation, so that's moving ahead. And Town Park, I think we mentioned once before, but just wanna mention again, the park will close on July 31st, and that's when demo will start for phase 1 of the town park renovation.
Is it gonna be fully closed off, or is the pickleball court gonna have a special access point?
Nope, the pickleball court will not have a special access point. All of phase 1 will be closed. That does not include the ball fields. They'll remain open, cause we're not doing work over there. But the pickleball courts will no longer be accessible to the public after July 31st.
Pickleball finds a way.
Or we'll find a way, no matter what. My thoughts living next to that high trap count, in light of having a suspension on spraying, is there any way we could just put a sign up for the senior, I mean, they're typically senior adults in there, just saying, recommending the, what was it, the 4Ds or something? Just feel like that's kind of a high trap count and a very vulnerable
Yeah.
population in a closed area, so.
Yep.
Maybe a sign would help.
Yeah, we can do that.
Anything else?
No, nothing else from me tonight.
Great, anything else, board? Okay, so we have are we gonna take action? Probably not? I'm
We're
guessing.
not.
Okay, we have an executive session next, so this concludes our regular meeting. Thank you, everyone. Don't feel like you need to stick around for everything else. Is there any trustee who wants to move us into the executive session?
Trustee Butler, you wanna send us off
Sure.
for one last executive
go.
session readout?
I'd like to move to enter into executive session, CRS 24-6-402, 4EI, to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing a strategy for negotiations and instructing negotiators. And the following details are provided: potential water purchase.
Second.
All right, trustee Butler has moved on this. Mayor Pro Tem has seconded. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hardy,
Yes.
trustee Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grace.
Yes.
Trustee Butler,
Yes.
Mayor Karsbeck.
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone.
That was efficient. Oh, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.